My younger sister and her family, which includes her husband, and 2 kids, 3F, 5M, were visiting my husband and I and staying at our home for a week. A little background, we don't live in the same state. I've had kids of my own, but they are young adults now and out of the house. My sister is much younger than me and is still in the young family stage. We've always had a pretty close and good relationship despite our age gap. My sister does gentle parenting. I'd never heard of that before she came to stay with us because I guess I'm out of the loop since my kids are grown now. She explained to me that gentle parenting means they don't do time out, don't do grounding, etc., but instead just talk about their feelings. I thought that was a bit odd because it sounds like there is zero discipline but didn't say anything as to not rock the boat. Until I saw gentle parenting in action and was appalled. During the first 2 days of their stay, her daughter drew on my walls with crayon. And her son pulled up flowers I had recently planted in my garden bed and threw a rock at my car parked in the driveway. To top it all off, they both kept constantly pulling my golden retriever's hair and hitting my dog in the face. My dog is very sweet and a little on the older side, so she's very calm. She never bit, attempted to bite, or did anything that would harm or spook the kids. In every instance, I was expecting my sister or her husband to discipline the kids. They never did. So I did. Or at least I tried. Just me telling her kids to stop, or scolding them in the slightest made my sister lose her mind. She told me it's not my place to discipline them. I told her someone has to because they're messing up my home, but I agree it should be their parents scolding them. However, it seems their parents are not willing to. I told her they need a fairly stern punishment for what they've been doing, and she started going off about how they refused to spank their kids like we were spanked as kids. I told her I'm not suggesting she spank her kids, but a stern talking to and making them clean up what they destroyed would be a good idea. She said what her kids were doing was not worth what I would call discipline. All she did in every instance was ask them, what kind of feelings are you having that made you do that? And that was it. So I realized this behavior was not going to stop, and my husband and I told them they need to find a hotel or go home. Even though we had planned for them to stay a full week, we couldn't handle more than 2 days because of the gentle parenting. I told her the gentle parenting is going to cause her kids to have a very hard life and rude awakening someday, probably even jail time. She argued back and really lost it when I told her this hippy dippy gentle parenting shit is a scam and will ruin your kid's life, which I regret now but boiled over in the moment. Now she won't speak to me and our mom says I'm in the wrong for kicking them out when they planned on staying longer. Am I the jerk? Commenter, it would have worked way better than using violence and shouting. Most chronic negative childhood behaviors are the direct result of the parenting techniques of physical and verbal abuse/domination. Edit, what you did with their children was in fact gentle parenting. If they can't behave with the dog, then you remove the dog from them. What you did to your sister was also gentle parenting. It's about having boundaries. It sounds like she has none with her children, and that is as bad or worse than abuse parenting. I never used violence towards my children. And I should have said raised voice instead of yell, because that is more the point I was trying to get across. It's not realist to expect a kid to only be exposed to a super calm tone 100% of the time and then be able to deal with a non-calm tone in the real world when they're grown. There are definitely circumstances where a raised voice is appropriate. If you don't agree, then that's okay, but I guess you're a monk. Update 1, I read the comments. Sounds like my sister's version of gentle parenting is not actually gentle parenting. However, the real gentle parenting lots of you are describing still sounds like an odd choice of parenting in my view, and if it was around when my kids were little I can't imagine it would have worked on them. Guess this new generation of parents are just doing things differently. Not sure how that's going to work out in the long run for society, but to each their own. The world isn't gentle. How are all these gentle parented kids going to deal with the real world when someone yells at them, or does any of the things gentle parenting doesn't include? If our world was a perfect utopia, then gentle parenting sounds great, but it isn't, and it's not realistic to me. I don't plan on ever inviting my sister over to stay at my home again if her kids will be with her, that is if she ever decides to even speak to me again. Which even after all this, I do hope our relationship is mended because she is still my sister. Just can't deal with her kids. Commenter, hi. Gentle parent here. This isn't gentle parenting. You're still allowed to say no in gentle parenting. And part of me feels this is fake with how weirdly focused you are in gentle parenting itself instead of your sister's weird behavior. I'm so focused on gentle parenting because it is solely to blame for the downfall of mine and my sister's relationship, which I have always cherished. I am focused on my sister's behavior, but her behavior is being driven by her parenting style. She completely changed as a person when she implemented this parenting style. Commenter, the dog thing, sure, I'd be annoyed at your sister for not intervening, but all of the things you described are regular kid things for their ages tbh, and yelling at your sister and kicking them out after 2 days over it is a big reaction. If you consider pulling flowers and drawing on walls destroying your home, I'd quote to tell you. Never have kids of your own, I guess. I did have kids of my own and they're grown now. They never did things like that because they knew there'd be consequences and didn't act like feral children. Commenter, it makes me happy to see so many people here defending what gentle parenting really is. It seems that is just posting here to justify harsh or physical punishments. It seems that the kids are less of an issue when compared to the action of either the or her sister. I'm going to guess that both grew up with punishments like Op describes. One goes one way and the other goes another. Your issues with each other could have been handled differently. But, I'm guessing you're not going to ground yourselves. Op, I've told you my sister's kids destroyed my home and abused my dog and that I don't condone spanking, but they need to clean up their mess and be held accountable. And what you got out of that was I'm a harsh parent. Update 2. Someone either sent my sister my original post or she is on Reddit herself and saw it. She texted me a link to my post and said she can't believe I'm airing our family drama online. She told me she was leaning towards working out our differences, but now that I've posted it on here, she's done, and blocked me. Since I can't reach her by phone, I'll address her on here since she's clearly reading this. Allison, I do love you and have always cherished our relationship, but if you feel like you're done then that's okay, I can't change your mind. Look at me talking about feelings, you should be proud. At this point I'm pretty done too, so here it is. You are family, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be a pushover and allow your children to behave the way they did in my home, especially pulling Bella's hair and smacking her in the face. That was animal abuse. It was all completely unacceptable and I don't understand how you allow them to behave the way you and Steven allow them to. Some people have suggested I send you a bill for the damage your kids caused, but I'm not going to do that. I'll pay for the repairs, but only because I know this will never happen again, since your kids are not welcome back at my home unless you drastically change your parenting style and finally implement legitimate discipline. I'm still not saying you need to physically discipline them, but you need to do some form of actual discipline before it's too late and their future is ruined. I don't understand why you have decided to gentle parent, or whatever your form of gentle parenting is, and it has changed you as a person. You don't act the way you used to and now you are offended by everything and don't agree with the way anyone else does anything. I just don't understand what happened. I encourage you to look at some of the comments on the original post to prove to you 99% of people would have done exactly what I did in the situation, and I was not just being harsh. There has to be consequences for bad behavior or else you are doing your kids a disservice, which is not kind on your part. When you read the comments, some have good parenting advice and others are harsh. But hey, that's life, it's not so gentle. Comments. Commenter, this doesn't sit right with me, I'd suggest having a talk or some sorts. Op, she's blocked me and I can't call or text her. What do you suggest I do? Send her a note via pigeon. Commenter, do you have any mutual friends who could send messages? Op, I'm not getting any of our mutual connections involved in this drama. If she blocked me, she clearly doesn't want to talk anyway. Update 3, Allison, not her real name, finally reached out to me to talk. She read some of the comments and sees that most people think she is neglecting her kids due to her parenting choices. She asked if I agree. I told her I think there could definitely be some changes in the way she parents. She said she had tried gentle parenting but realizes now that she has gotten it wrong. I asked what her plan moving forward is. She apologized for the way her kids acted and said her and her husband have lost friends over the way her kids act because people don't want to be around them. She said this whole ordeal has been a wake-up call. Allison said she's going to try a different parenting style since gentle parenting didn't pan out very well for her kids. She said she's going to enforce punishment/consequences but still no corporal punishment. I said I think that's great. Her worry is that the kids won't take it well and it will cause even more problems. I told her they'll just have to get used to it. Apparently her husband was never in agreement with the gentle parenting and it has also caused marital issues due to the fact they didn't see eye to eye on it. Now, her husband is happy she's finally come around to some form of consequences and punishment for their kids. I told her I think she's making a very wise decision. I still am not happy about what her kids did to my house and dog, but the fact she's willing to change her parenting style so that doesn't happen again makes me feel a lot less angry. And yes, I got Allison's permission to post this update. We really were able to work things out. She really is a good person, just had a lapse in judgment and parenting. Edit, since this will be the last update/post on this issue by me, wanted to say something about the permissive parenting versus gentle parenting styles a lot of people commented about. Gentle parenting, how everyone is explaining in the comments, sounds like the kid does something wrong, then the parent asks how they feel, then redirects them to a different task/activity, maybe tells them no but maybe doesn't. And they call the redirection to a different task/activity the discipline or natural consequence part of gentle parenting. That is the exact same thing as permissive parenting because there is still no legitimate punishment or consequence. I'll agree that my sister wasn't doing the form of gentle parenting everyone was describing because all she did was talk about feelings and left out the redirection and the possible no, don't do that. But even after reading all the comments, permissive parenting and gentle parenting sound very similar, if not the exact same. If kids are taught redirection is what happens when they do something wrong, they are going to be completely shocked and confused when there are real consequences and punishment and not just redirection or natural consequences in the real world. If they grow up and steal a car, the police arrest them, send them to jail and make them pay a fine, they will think it's an incredibly harsh punishment and be shocked because all they were expecting was a natural consequence of returning the car to the owner and then moving on with their day. Relevant comment, there were a lot, but I felt like this reflected the general tone of most comments. Commenter, simply because this is a hill I will die on, Real consequences are a crucial element of true gentle parenting. Natural consequences does not mean no consequences. Like you said, you steal a car and you get arrested. Those are the natural consequences of your actions. The same is true of gentle parenting. My kid throws a toy at me, the natural consequences are that I'm going to put that toy up, because I'm not going to have someone throwing things at me. My kid draws all over the walls, they're going to clean, or help me, depending on age, clean it up. They broke a sibling's toy, they're going to use their own money/toys to replace it. Redirecting is useful at a very young age, before the brain has developed to make connections. Redirecting can be useful when you haven't hit the stage of needing consequences. Kid is frustrated, but hasn't yet thrown something, but redirecting is not the same tool as consequences, and both are vital for true parenting of all types, gentle or otherwise. Anyways, I'm glad y'all are working on it. I wish her and her husband all the best, and your relationship with her as well. Up, down voted. The natural consequences you are describing sounds more like the natural consequence of stealing a car would be returning the car to the owner. Not jail. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Adopted a boy we found on the highway, raised him for 19 years, then he uninvited us from his wedding. I know the title is a bit weird, but this was the best way I found to translate what was said. Obligatory apologies for bad grammar and/or spelling. English is not my first language. I'm M44, my husband is M40, been married for 20 years, together for 22, and our adoptive son is M24. He's black and we're not. I'm only mentioning this because it's relevant to the story later. This does not take place in the US. Let me give a little bit of background to the situation. About 19 years ago, me and my husband had been driving on a highway, back from a small vacation, when along a particularly long stretch of road, absolutely no buildings around, only a ton of grass and hills as far as the eye could see, we spotted a little boy just sitting by the side of the road. Like I mentioned, there was nothing around for miles, and no cars close to where the boy was, so we decided to stop and see if everything was okay. When we got closer to the boy, let's call him Jason, fake name, it was very easy to see he was dirty and malnourished since the only thing he had on were some diapers. He was so small it didn't look like he could be older than 3, later found out he was actually 5. We asked him why he was alone, and he told us that mommy and daddy put him here and told him to wait. There was no cell signal in the area, so we did the sensible thing and brought him back to town to the nearest police station. To make a long story short, CPS was called. We discovered his parents were some druggies that were on the run from a felony. The only other relative Jason had was his grandmother, who was very mentally ill and couldn't take care of him, and we felt bad. He went into foster care soon after, but we felt bad for the kid and kept in touch with his caseworker. I had, still do, an extremely well-paying job at the time, and could easily afford a decent lifestyle for a small family. So after a few months of discussions between ourselves, the caseworker, and some bureaucracy, we formally adopted Jason. Now onto the situation. About 3 years ago, Jason's parents were released from prison on parole. They contacted him not long after in hopes of reconnecting. Prior to that they'd sent him a few odd letters here or there, but nothing really substantial. At first he was hesitant to talk to them, but ended up caving and meeting them for lunch one day. I'll admit that a part of me was a bit jealous and apprehensive of what could happen. But I could see that it really was something that my son wanted to do, so for his sake I swallowed those and supported him through it. It wasn't very long, about 3 months I think, that he started to pull away from us. At first I chalked it up to him being excited to actually talk to his bio parents after so long. Talk about what had been going on in his life, spend some time with them, etc. It started to bother me when he'd cancel plans with us last minute because mom had an emergency or dad really needs me to help him with something today or whatever other excuse he could come up with. He used to come over to our house at least once a week, call every day or so, but now we were lucky if he even came by that month. Again, I thought that was just temporary, that he was just excited and soon enough he'd start spending some time with us again. We were overjoyed when he invited us over to diner one night. It was supposed to be a family gathering, us and his bio parents and his wife, girlfriend at the time. I wasn't exactly keen on meeting the people that had left my son for the dead on the side of the road, but decided to give them the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe they'd atoned and changed. Besides, he's our son and we love him. We had to at least try. To say the diner was a disaster is an understatement. His bio mom was extremely rude to my husband the entire night, making passive-aggressive homophobic and racist remarks every chance she got. His father was much the same. It all came to head when she straight up called us the F word and threw a glass at my husband. A screaming match followed and we left soon after. The next day Jason apologized profusely the next day and promised they'd never do something like that again. I told him neither me and my husband wanted to have anything to do with them, and would appreciate if he understood that. He seemed to, but continued to pull away the next few months. And that leads to what happened last week. Jason proposed to his girlfriend about 9 months back, and has been preparing for the wedding since. Of course we were overjoyed for him. But a few months went by and no invitation came. Every time we asked, Jason would say they hadn't been sent out yet and change the subject. Well, last week my husband saw a Twitter post from one of Jason's friends, his groomsmen, that went a few weeks back, with the invitation in hands. We confronted Jason about it the next time he came over, only for him to drop the bomb on us that we hadn't been invited. We asked why, and he said his parents didn't want us there and wouldn't come if we did. I was fucking furious. I asked him how could he choose those pieces of trash over us? Why they were so important? What did we do to deserve this kind of treatment? His answer? They understand me better. They're my people. At this point my husband was crying, asking how could he do this? I've only ever been truly angry a few times in life, and this moment managed to top all of them. I threw him out right then and there and told him to never come back. That he wasn't our son anymore. I spent the rest of the day hugging my husband and trying to calm him down. The next day I canceled everything we'd paid for the wedding, which was basically everything important, even the ones we couldn't get a refund on. Of course Jason had the gall to call and scream at me, asking how I could do that to him. Where would he find replacements for a wedding that was supposed to happen only a few months from now? I told him I didn't give a shit and said maybe you should ask those two leeches you call parents for some help. 19 years. 19 fucking years of my goddamn life spent raising and loving a kid that I considered my own son, only to be treated like garbage. Giving blood, sweat and tears, so he would have a good life, all the love we could possibly give, and that's what we get as a reward. As for why I'm asking if I'm the some people have been calling and messaging us, mostly Jason's friends and a few of our family members, calling us heartless and monsters for doing what we did to him. And that's honestly got me questioning if I went a bit too far in anger. After all, parents are supposed to love unconditionally, right? But if so, how do we ever get over something like this? How can we deal with this feeling of betrayal? Are we justified in feeling like that? So, Ida? Edit, I've added a comment for further clarification of a few points I've seen asked in the comments and my PMs. Please refer to that if you have any questions. Edit 2, I'm seeing quite a few racist comments in this post, and to the people that are making them, I have this to say, fuck you. Fuck off with that rhetoric. I do not appreciate it, and would rather if you guys left.